What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Eric, Mr. Cincinnati Robinson, and as always, I'm joined by the podcast dad himself, Chris Hoops. Chips, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Voice is almost there, but we're getting right to it. I can drink coffee for the first time in about a week, so I'm pretty excited about that. But let me stop talking because we have a special guest with us. We get to talk to wrestlers, and this is amazing. So without further ado, I will let you do the intro.
Absolutely, yes. Our next guest is a 5-year vet who has been in a number of promotions in the UK, such as WIN, Elevation Wrestling, WAW, and many more. Please welcome Adam Bolt to the show. Adam, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. It's always a pleasure. Again, we take great pleasure in interviewing wrestlers. It's just one of our favorite things in the world to do, and probably one of the better perks of this job that we've created for ourselves. So let's just get right on into it. Here at the Wrestling Junkies podcast, we believe that wrestlers are superheroes. And every superhero's got an origin story. So, Adam, tell us about some of your memories of professional wrestling.
Ooh, my memory as a fan was when I was about. It's actually my earliest memory in life. I've told this story quite a few times. I remember being on the sofa with my dad, and at the time I didn't know what it was, but watching wrestling back years later, it was. I think it was WrestleMania 14 was on the TV. So
Hmm.
putting like memories and time and things like that in order. Obviously, that was must have been like 1998. So my earliest memory of it, I must have been about 2 or 3 years old. So I was born in '95. So that was the earliest memory I've got of wrestling as a whole. And then from there, I just every time it was on the TV, I was sat in front of it.
I remember that
Yeah.
Mania well. That's some of the first memories I have as well. So that's awesome. Um, so growing up, we all had our favorites. Who were some of your favorites, and then how have they influenced your style in the ring?
So my favorite of all time probably has a lot to do with that WrestleMania as well. Was Shawn Michaels. I think it was just I was kind of hooked by just the showmanship of it, and I think it comes into a lot of what I do today as well. I've not done it on purpose, but when I like reflect on things I do and like my look, the entrance, things like that, I can see the connection there. It's just a bit flamboyant, a bit like out there in terms of charisma and like being a showman. So I'd say Shawn Michaels for sure. In ring style, it was obviously a bit later on with the more cruiserweight style that started coming in the early 2000s towards like when NXT was coming in, the smaller guys like Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, people like that. But yeah, Shawn Michaels was the start of it all.
It seems to be a
Love that.
common theme with almost
Yeah.
everybody.
And we will be circling back to the Shawn Michaels, the answer to that question here towards the end of the interview. But based out of the UK, for us here upon in the United States, what tell us a few things about the UK wrestling scene that we need to know. People that may not get an opportunity to check out matches from overseas. What are some things we need to know about the UK wrestling scene right now in 2024?
In terms of the scene in 2024, I personally believe it's the best it's ever been. And I say that because obviously lockdown has a huge part of it. Because obviously compared to over in the States, we're only a small island. I mean, a lot of wrestlers over there will travel hours for shows, and to us, 2 hour drive is a long time. We'll drive 2 hours and it'll be like, oh, which over there it's nothing. But it was lockdown that started it. So I think because coming out of lockdown, everybody, and this is across everywhere, not just in the UK, but everyone was kind of at a starting point because
Hmm.
nobody wrestled for so long. So in the UK, it was kind of like I used lockdown where I could to get in the best shape I was in, to work on a lot of stuff mentally and sit and like basically study almost. So I could be better coming out of it than I was going into the lockdown. But in terms of the UK scene, I think it's on fire at the minute, and it's and like every aspect of it is booming. The women's wrestling, for a start, is on fire. I put my list together of people I wanted to work with in 2024, and a lot of, and it's not a problem, but generally a lot of people's list, when they think of dream matches and their home country and things like that, there is a lot more male wrestlers out there, but mine was almost 50-50 with females. So I think like there's no doubt anymore between like different genders in wrestling because in the UK it's all thriving.
Yeah, I'm going to swerve off here off our notes here real quick. How important do you think intergender wrestling is to wrestling moving forward?
I think it's really important. I get why some of the bigger companies stay away from it, just with what the marketing, promoting, and things like that. But I have had one intergender one-on-one, and it was one of the best matches I've had with Alexis Falcon in the UK. Alexis has worked TNT and big promotions like that. So, but it's just great, especially for me as well, because there's so many different stories we can tell. It's easy to do with a male and female. The male outpowers the female, but with me, because I'm similar size and height to them, there's more possibilities there, and it's so much fun. I love it. I think we should do it a lot more.
Yeah, I think you have both of our votes on that as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think some of the better matches we've seen have been those intergender matches.
Yeah.
So as I was doing my research, you've been in a number of battle royals, including an 8-man tag rumble, a Iron Fist Christmas rumble, and
Yeah.
then most recently the Great North Rumble. What are the challenges that go into kind of a multi-man, multi-woman rumble match that you've seen?
I think for me, it's just you've got a lot more to think about. Like with the more people, the more there is to think about. The more you have to watch your back. I've learned that one. But it is just that. I think you referenced the Christmas rumble I did a few. I think that was just before lockdown. That was wild because we had all these sort of Christmas references in there, and I do remember being hit in the face with a paint can because someone had the idea to do like the Home Alone setup with the. So I'm stood there holding this stick, and they threw the paint can and it hit somebody, which was great. I was stood there laughing, not thinking the paint can's obviously coming back, and I hold of the stick and it hit me straight in the face, and I thought they were empty, but they weren't. But
Oh my god!
yeah, yeah, it wasn't. But that wasn't the worst injury of the night because Ivy, who I wrestled with, got a big bone in her head and it cut her open, covered in blood, for the rest of the night. But yeah, just to go back to your point, just more to think about. There's a lot more. You get more creative with it as well. I mean, I don't think we've scratched the tip of the iceberg with like things you can see in sort of multi-man matches, especially rumbles as well. A lot of people get their influence from spots they see on, say, WWE, for example. But I just like to have fun with them.
Makes sense for sure. I mean, that could not imagine being hit in the face with a paint can.
A full paint can.
Yeah, that's just insane. So in 2019, you had the opportunity to wrestle probably one of the most likable wrestling personalities there is, in Simon Miller. Tell us about the time you met Simon and how this match came about.
So I was a bit nervous by it because I'd say before lockdown, my mentality changed coming out of it. But before it, I was still in that mindset of being like grateful and like humble for everything, and I still am to this day. But I was very shy as well because I wasn't the fully fledged Adam Bolt I am today. So I was kind of felt like I was always holding something back, and it was for a company called B Pro Wrestling at the time in Sheffield, and my training school at the time was about 20 minutes away. So it was one of the first places I'd worked outside of that training school. And I did 1 or 2 shows for them, which was great. It was fun. And then when I got told I was wrestling Simon Miller, this is somebody that in my spare time, like I'd get him from a wrestling show, I'd go to bed and I'd put like WhatCulture videos on YouTube. So it's a bit like, oh, this is where wrestling gets interesting because it always feels like you're a million miles away from, these people that you've watched on TV or these people like Simon Miller. But it came so easily. And when I met him, it was, you always expect like it's like almost like they're not real people. But when I met Simon, it was great. It was fun to work with. We had a lot of fun that night as well. He's just a great guy. Like I really got along with him, and great. Obviously, still doing a lot of his own stuff now. And like my nephew, for example, he watches it. Like, I can't believe you wrestled Simon Miller, and I'm like, yeah, no.
That's awesome.
Love that.
So let's talk about Big Man Inc. How did you meet your partner Jackie T?
Oh, so me and Jack wrestled at the same training school I mentioned a minute ago, and we became friends. We weren't instantly close, but we were both kind of like the 2 young ones of the group, the 2 small young ones basically. And it was coming into, we were always good friends. We started training, but then our training school basically went out of business going into lockdown, and then we kind of went to House of Pain Wrestling, which is in Nottingham. So it's about 40, 50-minute drive from where we are. And we started training there where we could in lockdown with the rule of 6 and things like that. And it was just the hours put into the drives and going forward and backwards that we just started. I had this idea in my head of what I wanted to do coming out of lockdown. I knew who I was, and I'd found that during the pandemic. So if you can take your best friend with you, why not? So I had this idea for him. I'm saying, someone like me who thinks they are this celebrity, they are this movie star, like, why wouldn't they have their own personal security and make people hate them even more?
Yeah.
Jack straight away was like, I'll do that. Like, that sounds great. But the thing is about that is that it couldn't have been anybody else, because anybody who's met us and is at a show with us sees the connection we have. There's a reason he's my best mate outside of wrestling as well. Like, I put anybody else in that role and I guarantee it wouldn't have worked, but with him, it just worked so naturally.
Makes sense. That sounds a lot like us, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah. So as far as Big Man Inc. itself, what's the origin story behind the name?
So the name, it's not actually much of a story to it. So we, at the time, it had a bit of a comic vibe to it, because we were doing it in our new training school, House of Pain, and a lot of the crowds there are family crowds, and we tried going a bit of see, it's funny I mentioned Home Alone in that Christmas Battle Royal earlier, because the vibe we wanted to go with was like Harry and Marv from Home Alone, where it's like the guys and they have a plan together, but they're too stupid to play it off. And that's what it was like. Like, Jack was the most unsecurity security guard I've ever seen in my life at the time. And we wanted something to like play on it, something where we can think we're a big deal, but people are like eye roll. And it was Styx, our trainer at the time. He just came out with it. I think one day he just said something like Big Man Incorporated or Big Man Inc. or something like that. And obviously with Jack being the security guard, it makes sense that a security guard should be a big man. And then me literally walks around thinking I'm a big man the whole time. It's like, it fits. But that's where it came from. It's not any more convoluted than that. It's quite simple, actually.
No, that's okay. Sometimes the best ideas come from not the most serious ideas, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So in 2023, you won the WAW Pride Championship. What was that moment like for you?
It felt like I was never going to get there. Like I say, when I started, I was only just figuring myself out personally as well. And then the year before that, I took part in my first Pride show, which was the WAW's first Pride show, which felt unbelievable as it is. I've mentioned it a lot of times. Like, it wasn't a case of me ever worrying to come out. It was more I just didn't want to be it. I literally used to wake up every day and I didn't want to be it. But so to come to a point where I've not only accepted it, but I'm kind of showcasing it in front of people as well was mad. But then fast forward a year later that I'm winning their first Pride Championship, it was I try not to think about it. I tend to notice the pattern that I seem to thrive under pressure, and when I'm in these bigger matches or a lot of pressure on myself to deliver, I seem to perform at another level, which is kind of weird, because when I think back to the Shawn Michaels thing, people used to say that about him. So it was kind of unbelievable. But once the match had finished, Mitch Starr he grabbed the microphone, said a few words, and started talking about, like, you might be the way you are inside the ring, but outside you've gone through a lot more struggles, and basically you deserve it, is what he said. And from then I was like, I'm the least emotional person ever when it comes to like people around me in wrestling. Yeah. They think I'm always miserable because that's the way I am, but I couldn't hold it back that night. It meant a lot, and I didn't think it meant a lot until he started saying the things he said, and then it would kind of all set in. But that's just like me. I don't let it soak in until it's pretty much done. I tend to enjoy it more once it's done and I'm on the way home than I do while it's happening.
So we have seen here in the States kind of I would say a recent boom of some of these Pride promotions. What about in the UK? How does that look? Is there multiple promotions? Is there one? We've had a couple on our show, but what does that look like over there?
So over here there was a promotion that was started which was called Pride Pro Wrestling. I don't think it ever took off. I'm not sure whether that will plan going ahead. But the one thing I will say, although I don't think we have a Pride specifically run promotion, there are so many promotions now that will make not only just exclusive, but they will promote a Pride I think it's took for a few people to do it and see how much talent there is and how much success it has for people to want to basically do the same. For example, one of my favourite promotions of watching it is True Grit Wrestling. It runs in Leeds and York area, which again is about an hour away from where I am. And I think last I heard they were thinking about doing a Pride show, and obviously there's WWW, TNT are very heavy promoting it. So although we don't have specific promotions for Pride, I think it's enough and it's good enough that places are wanting to showcase. It benefits everybody. It benefits the performers, the fans, also themselves. Like, we can't be dumb to the fact that, you know, it makes them money. It makes them money because people want to see.
Yeah, and that's something I think Eric and I have discovered a lot through this podcast is like wrestling is just good wrestling. I don't care
Yeah.
what's going on. Like I just want to watch good wrestling, and if you can wrestle, let's go.
Yeah.
So as you know, you've spent 2023 winning championships and having great matches. What are your goals for 2024?
So I did make some goals, and I some people did say to me like, "Oh, like, do you not think you need to, you know, home in a bit more in the UK first?" And I was like, "Yes, but you know, there's never a great time to go." And I've spoken about the fact that I want to go, whether that is or whether it's over the States. The States is the big one. That's partly because through my coming out story and, you know, getting a lot of media attention, things like that, I've kind of connected with people that I want to work with. So people that have been really good to me have been like Devon Monroe. Obviously, having conversations with Devon and then watching the work, like, okay, then well, Sonny Kiss has dropped me a message or two, and again, somebody I want to work with. So going to the States is a big one. It may not be 2024, but I'm going to make sure it happens. But if I am going to stick in the UK for 2024, it's just these promotions that I have been at, so TNT, some of the big promotions. I just want to work as much as possible and get myself to a point where I'm regular at the show. So I'm not like the last thing I want to do is be somebody that they call on for, you know, a Pride show. I want to be that person that, yeah, I can main event your Pride show, that's fine, but then 11 other shows throughout the year as well. Like, I want to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my goal. I just want to take over the UK. It sounds daft because everybody's got the same goal, but you know, if you're not here to be the best, then what you're here for, basically. So yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. So we have talked about Adam Bolt here for about 18 minutes now. So we're going to turn the spotlight on some other guys and gals. Who are some people that we need to kind of keep an eye out for in 2024?
Okay. So just going off the UK alone, people that I have worked with and I watched. So I'll go with else first. One, a good friend, ZZ. I did the BBC documentary sort of thing last year, and Z was part of that. I think I can't remember. I don't want to get it wrong, but she's been a lot less time been wrestling than me, but she is making a massive impact on the UK scene at the minute. She's already worked some of the top females in the country. She's great. Another one that I'm not really close to, I haven't got a close personal friendship with, but I watched her work once, and I was like, okay, she fits a gap in the market, I think, for like a high-flying female wrestler in the UK, and that is Melissa Fierce. I love Melissa Fierce. Some people might not be aware of her yet, but I'm sure they will be because her natural athletic ability. How she works hard as well, and she's got matching gear with me as well, which yeah. So,
Nice.
but yeah, Melissa Fierce and Z, two great ones. Male-wise, there's so many. It's hard because you don't want to be that person that mentioned all your friends, but and then when I look around, there's a lot of people that do get. I don't want to, you know, people that are people always say are up and comers. Like I want it to be people that people may not have yet. So Andrew booked somebody who wrestles under the name of. That's bad that I forgot that is.
That's okay.
That's all right. That's all right.
But find out. I'll let you know. No,
Okay.
I'm having a mind blank. but there's a lot of people at our training school. I would look up House of Pain Wrestling because that training school is on fire with me. Dix is working well to train a lot of people. He's got a lot of new personalities there. So anybody there is one to watch as far as I'm concerned because there's a lot of talent there. I saved that one very well.
Awesome. Well, we again, I mean, that's what we love to do is just, especially with Twitter being so prevalent and especially for wrestling, it makes it much easier for us to look for names, just internationally to keep an eye on. So we definitely will. I think I have an idea of the answer to this next question based on some of the things that you have said today. But this is an ongoing debate that we have on the Wrestling Junkies podcast. When you hear the name Mr. WrestleMania, do you think Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker?
Oh, see, I can see both sides.
Yeah.
That's something that has. I would say personally, just because it's me, I would say I personally think Shawn Michaels because it is Shawn Michaels, and that's only because I think while I was watching it growing up, he was referred to as that. But if you think about performances and the best match, I think although both of them have had multiple 5-star matches at WrestleMania, I think you can't really call somebody Mr. WrestleMania unless they've been undefeated 20 years. You know what I mean? So it kind of both sides of it. For me, it's Shawn Michaels, but I'm not angry if people say Undertaker because you can't argue that.
Well, that's good because I do say The Undertaker, so that's okay. I appreciate the honesty, and you gave a great answer. I will never argue a great answer. Adam, we have had a blast talking to you. Where can everybody find you on socials, and then what events do you have coming up?
Yeah, so on Twitter it's just AdamBolt_. Instagram is AdamBoltWrestler. I have a lot of my usual promotions coming up. House of Pain wrestling shows. I've got Phenomenal Elite Wrestling in the UK. There is some things that I wish I could share with you, but I can't yet for reasons. So people will have to just check out the socials and keep an eye out for them. There's a few big places coming up later in the year, but again, it's annoying because I want to just share them, but I can't. So you just have to watch my socials and wait, basically.
So that's all right. We're gonna make sure we monitor those socials, and when those come out, we will get excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, thank you so much again for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation. We certainly hope to have you back on the show. Again, just thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
No, it's all right. Thank you for having me. Anytime I get to talk wrestling, thank you.
Of course. We're always happy to provide that platform. For Adam Bolt, for the podcast, Adam, Mr. Cincinnati, this has been a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon.